Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Satma Vanda Moi Savadana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai Devavatoriya Jai Krishna Bhakti Hoy Jaha
The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koriya Parana Kori Homane Asa Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati De Prasade Pure Sada Asa.
My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires.
Chakudana Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se Devya Gyan Hriday Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate Vede Gai Jaracharito.
He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokena Lokera Jivana Lokera Jivana Kaha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padashaya Kaha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padashaya Devi Jasku Sakti Bhuvana Devi Jasku Sakti Bhuvana.
O spiritual master, ocean of mercy, and friend of the fallen souls, you are the teacher of everyone and the life of all people. O Master, be merciful unto me and give me the shade of your lotus feet. May your glories now be proclaimed throughout the three worlds.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. A very warm welcome to all of you on day 27 of Srila Prabhupada Lila. The end is near. Srila Prabhupada is very delighted. The court in New York has ruled in favor of the devotees of the movement, and Times of India gave a front page coverage for the good news. Now it is March 22nd. The senior devotees in Mayapur felt Srila Prabhupada was too ill to travel and that he should remain there and recuperate. Besides, reports from Bombay were conflicting. Surabhi Swami, knowing that Prabhupada's quarters weren't finished, wanted more time. So he wired Prabhupada requesting him not to come. But Giriraj and others had been arranging a lecture program for Srila Prabhupada at a pandal in Azad Maidan in Bombay. And Giriraj had written inviting Prabhupada. Prabhupada considered the opportunities for preaching and decided to go. He had his secretary send a telegram from Mayapur to Bombay. Prabhupada arriving Tuesday at 13:50. Have rooms ready in whatever condition. But on Prabhupada's arrival in Bombay, he was so weak that he could not walk down the steep stairs from the airplane. And the airline personnel arranged for him to be lowered to the ground by hydraulic lift. Once he was on the ground, several devotees assisted him in walking. Although he appeared frail, he smiled brightly when he saw the devotees waiting for him at the airport. So we see the extraordinary spirit of Srila Prabhupada for preaching. Prabhupada is so weak, already in the West, the devotees were pleading him not to travel to Mayapur. So Prabhupada told, I want a benediction like Arjuna, want to keep on fighting till my last breath. And then again, Prabhupada is not willing to settle in Mayapur to recuperate. Prabhupada is again willing to engage himself in a pandal program which his disciple is organizing in Bombay. And Prabhupada, we can see he's so weak, he cannot climb few steps out of the airplane. And he had to be lowered down in a hydraulic lift. So it is just unimaginable. A person cannot even take few steps down. And he's willing to travel to another place far off to other end of the country. And he's willing to go and speak for a big, huge program. As Srila Prabhupada entered his beautiful quarters at Hare Krishna land, he remarked that no one could outdo Surabhi Swami. He was, as we have been reading, in charge of the construction. Prabhupada spoke, I think I haven't such a place to live anywhere else in the world. Los Angeles and New York are big cities, and London, Paris, but nobody can present such a luxurious royal palace. Prabhupada was very delighted. Not for his personal interest that he wanted a palace to live, but by seeing the sincerity, how his disciple has been so careful to give the best opportunity to his spiritual master who is representative of God. So he should be served as God. Seeing how the one large room was arranged to facilitate his different activities, Srila Prabhupada said, This is like my room at the Radha Damodar temple. In one corner I am writing, in another corner I am sitting, and in another corner I am taking prasadam. The comparison was odd. So here Prabhupada has been offered a palatial complex on top of a very nice five-star hotel kind of atmosphere. But here Prabhupada is telling this giving me the feeling of my Radha Damodar rooms. And disciples could not comprehend the comparison because Radha Damodar is such a humble dwelling. That was the beginning of movement when Prabhupada was having no money, somehow he was managing. And if you have seen the rooms now, it is very nicely, the interiors are at least painted. We have tried to make it as good as possible, but you see the footages from Prabhupada's time, it is broken down. So very, very humble and less than humble and modest place. It's a poor living if you call it in straight words. But Prabhupada is expressing the mood of a pure devotee. How pure devotee? He just wants to stay in Vrindavan. Never mind in dilapidated rooms or under a tree. But the stay in Vrindavan is the most delightful and pleasant to a pure devotee. Thus, the present civilization is completely misguided. They think if you make a nice arrangement of a huge house or a posh house in a good location, you will be happy. But we can see from here that Prabhupada, when he's seeing this palatial arrangement, the sincere devotional present from his disciples, he's telling this is same like my Radha Damodar rooms. It means how pleasant Prabhupada was feeling in Radha Damodar. So thus it is not the external things, what is the situation of the place we are living. It does not matter how much we are earning. Prabhupada was penniless at that time. It does not matter anybody is loving us in this world or not. This is another misconception. Nobody loves me, so I am in distress. No. Prabhupada, as we saw, the poem Prabhupada had written in Vrindavan, that where are all those family members now? It is just a list of names. So Prabhupada has got nobody to love him externally. Prabhupada is having a very poor dwelling. Prabhupada is having no money with him. And an old man, he is living there, but he's completely delighted. And now in this palace, he's telling, oh, this is just like my that place, other place. So we have to understand it is the consciousness which matters. Krishna consciousness makes a person happy and not the external arrangements. So Prabhupada wanted to drive home this very important point using this simile. Srila Prabhupada discussed with several of his disciples and Dr. Sharma about his daily routine in Bombay. And Prabhupada, because he was very weak, he explained that I will come down for darshan, be there for some time, but please do not let me meet any people because they come and ask, how are you feeling? And everybody knows I am not feeling good, but they will take half an hour. So I have no time, I have to write books. So even in such a state, Prabhupada is always thinking about his work of translating the books. So he expressed, if anybody is willing to see me, they can come down at the darshan time in the temple. When I go to have darshan, then they can see me. But everybody comes and takes half an hour. When will I do my work? So please limit my meetings with people. And Prabhupada, for the first time, even though Prabhupada had a injured knee, as we understood, but still Prabhupada was traveling. But now the situation, we can understand, Prabhupada cancelled his morning walk, which Prabhupada, even though he was very weak, one time he collapsed at night in his room. Still the other morning he was out for a walk. But this time Prabhupada cancelled walks. Prabhupada was giving very few lectures, around 1 or 2 lectures in a week. So Prabhupada still, he maintained very strong spirit for translating the literatures. The days went by peacefully, with mild pleasant breezes always passing through Srila Prabhupada's room. His intelligence was always sharp and alert. Even though body is failing, but intelligence was always sharp. And yet his health did not improve. Bhavanand Goswami had come from Mayapur and had been intimately serving Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada agreed. Bhavanand Swami, he is the best person who can give me massage. And Prabhupada told these 2 things are keeping me alive. So this morning walk Prabhupada was telling and massage. So now morning walk is also out of question. Massage is the only source of health for Prabhupada. And this disciple is very good in giving massage. But Prabhupada relieves him. You please go. Why? For preaching requirement. There were preaching responsibilities in Mayapur. So Prabhupada told it's all right. This body is not so important as the preaching work. So you please go. Don't care about it. You go and preach. That is more important. So Prabhupada relieved his assistant and sent him to Mayapur for preaching. Srila Prabhupada said there was no doubt that Bhavanand was the best at giving massage and taking personal care of his spiritual master, but the personal servant's duties were not as important as preaching. So we can just see the strong soldier spirit of Prabhupada for preaching work. Srila Prabhupada would repeatedly mention that the ISKCON leader should prepare to carry on without his direct management. One day he was recalling some of the incidents of his first year in New York City, when suddenly he began speaking of the future. "Don't spoil it," he said. "Now it is up to you, my senior men. I can part away from you. My health is not good. I am old man. It is not surprising. Now you GBC, young boys, you are American, expert. You have all intelligence, so you don't spoil it. Let the movement go forward more. You have a lot of nice places. Don't be anxious for. And even if I go, where is the harm? I have given my ideas and direction in my books. Just you have to see it. I think I have done my part. Is it not? Do you think so or not?" "Yes, you have done everything. Still we want the whole Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada." The disciple replied. "That will be done," said Prabhupada. "Even it is not full, there is no loss. You are competent, you can take charge. Now you can take charge of all the money and let me remain free from management. My only request is don't spoil it." So then people, of course, Prabhupada expressed that I can leave anytime Prabhupada's health was failing. But at that time, these moods were occasional. And Prabhupada is giving directions. Now you have to carry on, take charge of the movement. And at the next moment, again, Prabhupada will give some managerial decisions. And he would be again criticizing very strongly the atheistic scientists and the misguided political leaders. How because of these people, entire civilization is getting misled. The politicians and atheistic scientists. So Prabhupada again would put forth strong arguments, again would start preaching vigorously, and again would take important management decisions. But occasionally Prabhupada indicated, in my absence, you should be ready. "You should take care of your health," said Sriman Narayan. "I hope you get better." "Oh, this is just an old machine," Prabhupada laughed. "The more you cure it, the more it gets worse. But my work never stops. That keeps on going. My main work is to write these books, and that is going on." So one of the guests, Sriman Narayan, was there, and other guests were also there. So they told still Prabhupada, "Please take care of yourself. So you should try to visit some good places." They suggested Kashmir or Shimla, Masuri, Haridwar, like that. And eventually Prabhupada also agreed, yes, Haridwar is a good place. Ganges water is good there. And then it was suggested better than Haridwar is Rishikesh. That is further upwards. That situation is even better. If you go there, you can recover very soon. From that moment, going to Rishikesh became a definite plan. And Prabhupada prepared to leave Bombay within a week. The first week in Rishikesh was idyllic, heavenly, with perfect weather and hopes of Prabhupada eating and recovering. The devotees in Rishikesh had been in high spirits, and so had Srila Prabhupada. While crossing the Ganges by boat, Prabhupada had requested drinking water to be fetched from the center of the river. He had liked the lodge provided by his host, and he had even gone into the kitchen to show his disciples how to cook. Word had spread through the pilgrimage tourist town that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami was present, and Prabhupada had agreed to hold a darshan from 5 to 6 p.m. daily. The room had always been crowded at that hour with many people, including Western hippies and seekers, as well as Indians on pilgrimage and vacation. So many Westerners, they come to Rishikesh for either enjoying intoxication or for seeking spiritual life. And many Indian pilgrims also go there. And Prabhupada, immensely famous personality of the world, he was there. So Prabhupada announced, I will see people 5 to 6 in the evening. And it was completely jam-packed. Many people would come to see him. Although Srila Prabhupada's voice had been extremely faint, he had spoken with force, stressing Bhagavad Gita as it is. When an American hippie had questioned him skeptically, Prabhupada had replied, You cannot understand because you are crazy. Prabhupada, even though with faint voice, there was no compromise. He was always bold. So this point is very important. Prabhupada explained when he was skeptical, very doubtful about what Prabhupada was explaining. Prabhupada told, you cannot understand because you are crazy. Now, who is crazy in this material world? There is very nice article by Prabhupada. The spiritualist devotee will think materialist is crazy, and a materialist would think devotee is crazy. But who is actually crazy? We cannot tell everybody is all right. There is something called absolute truth. Something is fact. So thus Bhagavatam defines who is crazy. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaye apranoti. So Bhagavatam beautifully mentions Nunam. Nunam means definitely. Pramatta. Matta means madman. Pramatta means completely madman. Definitely Bhagavatam, the cream of all the Vedic literatures, Vidya Bhagavatavadhi. The culmination of knowledge is Bhagavatam. If a person has understood Bhagavatam, then purpose of entire education system is served. Just like if a person understands the graduation subjects, then he need not attend anything else. His entire education is successful. So one who can understand Bhagavatam, purpose of A, B, C, D, all arithmetic, trigonometry, history, geography, politics, all the affairs, the purpose is solved. And what is Bhagavatam mentioning? That man or woman is definitely pramatta, completely mad. Who is that madman? Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya apranoti. A person who breaks the laws of nature for deriving the evanescent, very, very short satisfaction of satisfying the senses. Indriya pritaya apranoti. So a person who is working very hard to satisfy the senses, and thus he breaks all the laws of nature to enjoy that experience, that person is completely mad. So any endeavor which is more than keeping body and soul together, that is madness. It is very simple point, because it simply creates addictions to us. We don't need to enjoy anything more than keeping body and soul together. That is not required. Yes, some requirement would be there for the body, to keep it active so that the soul can stay. But more than that is madness, because we don't desire that thing, we don't need it. But if we start enjoying such pleasures, we become addicted to it, and the demand always keeps on increasing. So this sense gratification, as we have discussed many times, it is like putting butter into fire. So thus entire civilization, students working very hard, people working very hard in their jobs or businesses, or other affairs. What for? It is simply for sense enjoyment. My mind and body would be satisfied, but a person may have $1 million, he will aim for another million or 10 million. But nobody is satisfied. So thus it is madness. The more you satisfy, the more it burns, your desire increases. In this way, a person becomes completely frustrated and never satisfied. And he breaks all the laws of nature, and thus he suffers unlimitedly. This is called madness. Neither sense gratifier is satisfied in this life, and because he has broken laws of nature, he creates unlimited sufferings for the future also. Now is suffering, and future also is full of suffering. He goes to hell to suffer. So this is called madness. So as long as our aim in life is sense enjoyment, if we think sense enjoyment will make us happy, I need any more clothes than keeping my body and soul together. I need any more food or varieties than keeping body and soul together. I need any more sleep, or entertainment is a big industry to keep the body and soul together. Then we should consider ourselves mad, because we do not need these things in the first place. Artificial demand is created by ourselves or by the society through advertising, and then we get hooked onto it. Then we have to spend time, money, energy on such enjoyment, which always increases the desire to enjoy it all the more. In this way, a person becomes addicted, and he suffers now and unlimited suffering in future. So this is madness, is it not? We are complicating our lives. 99% of the people are mad. Such simple logic does not strike them. But Bhagavatam defines Nunam Pramatta. Any person whose aim of life is to enjoy mind and senses, that's demands, that is called mad civilization. And a madman cannot be expected to understand any knowledge. So thus we should understand we are all mad to different degrees, to the degree we are feeling for enjoying the senses. So the only aim for work is Yagyarthat karmano anyatra loko yam karma bandhana. Satisfaction of Krishna. Thus Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Mai sanyasya matparaha, Mai sarvani karmani. The result of all the activities should be given to me. Mai sarvani karmani, Mai sanyasya matparaha. And only my satisfaction should be the aim of life. Yat karoshi, yat joshi, tat kurushma darpanam. Whatever you are doing, the result should be offered to me. So if I think, let me produce some results so that I can enjoy, this is madness. Such an endeavor always complicates our life. So as long as such madness or desire is present to us, to the degree it is present in us, to that proportion we are mad. And thus we should not worry if we are not able to understand spiritual concepts. We have to wait patiently for these desires, mad desires, to go away. Thus, before giving any instruction in Nectar of Instruction, for a neophyte devotee, Rupa Goswami mentions what is the first qualification, that is Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jivva Vegam Udaropastha Vegam. Vachaha Vegam, we have tendency to talk. We want to keep talking on and on. We should not talk unless we are chanting Krishna's name or preaching Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, that simply creates complexities, problems, suffering in our life and brings more misery, brings spiritual degradation in the life. So first of all, control the urge to talk. Then Vacho Vegam, Manasa Vegam, the urge of mind. Mind has so many thoughts, we cannot control it. It should be controlled. Jivva Vegam, the Vega, force to taste varieties of dishes, should be controlled. Krodha Vegam, anger, should be controlled. So like this, all the 6 Vegas of the body should be controlled. Then sanity comes, then a person can understand. So we should not worry, just like a sick man should not worry if he is not able to taste the dish. In sickness, everything would but taste bitter. So one has to take medicine and be patient. Yes, there is a healthy state. I'll come to that stage and then I will be able to taste it. So everything will be revealed in spiritual life once we are able to control all the 6 urges of the body. 2 balance urges are urges of belly and genitals. So when all the 6 urges are perfectly controlled, we should practice Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and control the activities of the 6 Vegas. And then when all the Vegas are controlled, when a person is not elated on material success, he is not depressed in material failure, then spiritual knowledge can be understood. Till then we have to be patient and follow the sadhana seva very, very regularly with rigid vows. So Prabhupada replied to American hippie, you cannot understand because you are crazy. And when a lady had put forward materialistic welfare work as the highest good, Prabhupada had replied, your compassion is as valuable as blowing on a boil to heal it. So when a person is having any boil, it burns. If you blow it, that gives some relief, but it is not going to cure the boil. So all the material welfare work which we are doing, a person is hungry, you give him something to eat, it gives some relief for a while, but then person is hungry. Why? Because of sins. Everybody suffers because of sins. Do you know why that person is hungry? Why God has created such an arrangement that he is hungry? He was not hungry in the womb of the mother. Everybody was being fed very, very nicely. So if God wants, he can feed everyone. And God loves everybody because we are all part and parcel of God. Why somebody is suffering? Because he has broken laws of nature. You can make very nice safety systems in your car. Still accidents will happen. Why? Because we are killing animals, giving trouble to their bodies. So trouble will come to our bodies also. So the helper is in ignorance. One being helped is in ignorance. And all the suffering is because of ignorance. So unless we give knowledge, these all other efforts, materialistic efforts, are like blowing to the person's boil. No significant use. Boils will keep on happening unless you educate the person how to keep himself uncontaminated. So thus Prabhupada was, even though health was failing, he was very strong in his consciousness, reasoning and intelligence. So thus I request all of you also, if you are engaged in any kind of welfare work is good because body and soul have to be maintained together. But there are many people doing it and these things are done as per the laws of nature. Nature finds an instrument, a person who is willing to render good service, then such a person is engaged in such materialistic work that nature will take care. But the real work is to give spiritual knowledge to people. And by giving spiritual knowledge, person can solve his own and others' problems for all, once and for all. So thus this book distribution, spreading this knowledge is the most important welfare work by which permanent happiness and eternity can be achieved. So Prabhupada was thus giving darshans in the evening, speaking to the crowd, and sometimes Prabhupada would go to the kitchen to guide his disciples. He would crack jokes also at times. And everyone was expecting that Prabhupada would recover very soon. But on the evening of May 15, Srila Prabhupada could neither sleep nor work at his dictation. The storm, a harbinger of the monsoon season, knocked out all electric power in Rishikesh. Since the fans were not running and the window shutters had to be closed because of the wind, the room became very hot. At 5 in the morning, Srila Prabhupada called for Tamal Krishna Goswami and said he was feeling weak. Tamal Krishna massaged Prabhupada for an hour. Even at dawn, the wind did not let up, and the sand was blowing. The storm and power failure continued the next night. Tamal Krishna asked Prabhupada about the swelling in his hands and feet, and Prabhupada replied, annoyed, why you are bothering? It is my body and I am not disturbed. Please consider how everything may be turned over to the GBC so that in my absence everything will go on. He added, because it was, although first Prabhupada rejected, that why you are bothering? I am not bothered by swelling in my limbs. But from material point of view, it is not good, Prabhupada explained. So consider how everything may be turned over to the GBC so that in my absence everything will go on. You may make a will and I will sign it. He was talking definitely about things that before he had only alluded to. Suddenly at 1:30 a.m., Prabhupada rang his bell. And Tamal Krishna and Shirchor Gopinath responded. From beneath his mosquito net, he said, as I was telling you, the symptoms are not good. I want to leave immediately for Vrindavan. The end is near. If it was time for me to pass away, he said, then let it be in Vrindavan. Since he wanted to leave immediately, the devotee stayed up all night packing and preparing to leave. Train reservations were not available, however, so they decided to go by a car. As they turned off the Delhi-Agra road, Srila Prabhupada saw for the first time the stone marker, Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. They soon met up with Gunarnava, who was waiting on a motorcycle and who joyfully sped ahead to tell the devotees at the Krishna Balram Mandir that Srila Prabhupada was there. At the gate of the temple, a big kirtan party, including all the Gurukul children, was gathered to greet Prabhupada with chanting and dancing. 4 devotees carried Prabhupada in a palanquin to the temple hall, where he offered his respects to the 2 lords, Krishna and Balram. After the Aarti ceremony honoring Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada spoke briefly to the assembled devotees. If death take place, he said, let it take place here. Seeing his demeanor and hearing him speak these unexpected words, some of the devotees in the room began to cry. So he continued, there is nothing new to be said. Whatever I have to say, I have spoken in my books. Now try to understand it and continue your endeavors. Whether I am present or not present, it doesn't matter. As Krishna is living eternally, similarly the living being also lives eternally. But kirti riyasya sa jivati. One who has done service to Lord lives forever. So you have been taught to serve Krishna, so with Krishna our life is eternal. The temporary disappearance of this body, it doesn't matter. The body is meant for disappearance. So live forever by serving Krishna. After one day in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada wrote, I was staying in Rishikesh hoping to improve my health, but instead, I have become a little weaker. Now I have come back to my home Vrindavan. If anything should go wrong, at least I will be here in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada called for Tamal Krishna Goswami. There are 2 things, he said, trying to survive and prepare for death. It is better to plan for the worse. Arrange to always have 3 or 4 men with me, have kirtan and read Bhagavatam all the time. Now I am trying to take little food. Parikshit Maharaj would not even take water. Seeing Srila Prabhupada's mood, Tamal Krishna mentioned the need for a will, and Prabhupada agreed. Then Prabhupada, because the situation was critical, Prabhupada had now very explicitly mentioned about his departure, which he was very indirect before. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj suggested it is time to have a will, and thus Prabhupada told, let all the GBC be here. Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked again, Prabhupada, you mean all the GBC members all across the world? Prabhupada told yes, because it was a costly affair and many responsibilities they were handling, but it was needed. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj immediately wrote, and all the GBC members, as soon as they could, they arrived in Vrindavan. And then they met with Prabhupada, and a small body, even among the GBCs, were selected. And they were told to approach Prabhupada to discuss the matters of his will and other important things. So Srila Prabhupada was asked the very important question. So Prabhupada, Saswarup Das Goswami, who was asked to represent the GBC, even among the select team, he asked Srila Prabhupada. He was very embarrassed because he has to talk about when Prabhupada is no longer with them. But nevertheless, it was important so that there is no confusion in future. So he asked Prabhupada, what will happen to the initiations in future? This happened on May 28th, 1977. What will happen to the initiations in future, first and second, particularly when you are no longer with us? So initiation is the beginning of one's spiritual life. It is a formal acceptance of spiritual master as a disciple decides, I am completely surrendered. He develops strong faith. First of all, disciple is recommended to hear at least for a year, it is told. Of course, some devotees are very inspired. They take in few months also. But the general process is at least for a year, you hear. And then when you understand the spiritual master is bona fide, and the spiritual master also sees that the disciple is sincere, and the disciple understands, now whatever spiritual master tells me, I am willing to do it. He is completely surrendered. Complete surrenderance to Lord Krishna is the crux of Bhagavad Gita. Now do not maintain your independence. You are suffering because of your independence. Just like a child needs knowledge. What is good for me? If a child plans his own future, he would be eating so many other nonsense things. He would eat mud only entire day. Or he would not go to school and would spoil himself. It meets an accident on a road, or somebody can kidnap him, but he tries to adhere to the instructions of the parents and he is thus saved and makes a good future. In a similar fashion, we conditioned souls need to very strictly follow the instructions of God in complete surrenderance. As soon as we completely surrender to Krishna, from that moment onwards, all the karmas are burnt. And spiritual master comes as Krishna's representative to accept the surrenderance and impart the instructions which Lord Krishna gives for our benefit. So when the disciple agrees, now no more independence. If spiritual master tells me to do this task, I will be doing that task. Spiritual master tells me not to eat, I will stop eating. Spiritual master tells me to do this work or leave that work, I will follow exactly. When this complete surrenderance develops, then a person takes initiation. And that is formal beginning of one's spiritual life. So what will happen to these ceremonies in future? There is first initiation and second initiation, particularly when you are no longer with us. So Prabhupada then told, I will soon appoint officiating acharyas. So the disciple asked, is that called Ritvik Acharya? Because Prabhupada would have been discussing these things. They were knowing Ritvik. This Ritvik means priest. So Prabhupada told, yes, Ritvik. So Prabhupada told, I will not make anybody next Acharya, just like Prabhupada is Acharya. Now he is giving initiation. Prabhupada explained as later, this is May 28th, and on July 9th, Prabhupada formalized this instruction in the form of a letter, which is called July 9th letter very famously. And it is institutional directive. It was sent to all the temple presidents, GBCs, all the leaders. And then Prabhupada indicated, I will remain as the Acharya, and I will appoint Ritviks. Ritvik means priest. Priest means anybody who can do ceremony, just like all the rituals, especially in India, they are done with the help of a priest. But nobody surrenders to a priest. Priest is doing the rituals. Priest may get you married, priest may do housewarming ceremony, priest may do last rites, so many other rites they are supposed to do. So in a similar fashion, there are some rituals, some ceremonies, fire sacrifice, chanting on the beads and thread. These activities, rituals could be done by these officiating acharyas called the priests, but nobody will become the acharya, the Diksha Guru, who gives initiation. So all the new disciples would be my disciples. And their name, all those people who take initiation through the help of these Ritvik acharyas, their name should be registered in His Divine Graces, Srila Prabhupada's Initiated Disciples book. So in this way, Prabhupada told, I will continue to accept the disciples even in the absence of the physical body. So then another important question was about publishing the books. Saswarup next asked about the BBT. At present, he said, no translated works are to be published without your seeing and approving them. So the question is there any system for publishing works in the future? Works that you may not see? Prabhupada replied that we have to examine expertly. He accepted the principle that future works could be translated from Sanskrit, but he cautioned, but among my disciples, I don't think there are many who can translate properly. And when some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples were learning Sanskrit, they wanted to translate the books of Goswamis. Prabhupada told, do not touch it. You are not qualified. Maybe generation after next generation, means 2 generations after, you may have some children, and your children are born in the Vaishnava environment, so they would be very pure, they would not indulge in sinful activities. And when in their purified consciousness, they produce a second generation, they might be capable of reading and translating these Goswami literatures. So some of the literatures of the Goswamis, they reveal very, very confidential pastimes of Krishna. And if you have seen in Vrindavan, next to Madan Mohanji temple, there is Granth Samadhi next to Sanatan Goswami Samadhi. Sanatan Goswami in his ecstasy wrote many confidential pastimes for Krishna, and later he realized, oh, ordinary people should not read these works. So then he buried all such literatures, and that is called Granth Samadhi. So revelation is done as per the capacity of the person. Thus, Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita also, when Krishna is explaining, he did not mention the ultimate principle, Sarv Dharman Parityajya, immediately. He introduced gradually the concept of soul and other things, because he was thinking Arjuna may not misunderstand it. So of course, Arjuna will not do it, but common people may do it. So Krishna is very gradually building up. He is hesitant to give the final instruction. And the later he tells, Sarv Guhyatamam Bhuya Shunu Me Paramam Vachaha. Now here the most confidential, topmost knowledge, Sarv Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Forget everything, all the religions, responsibilities, moral codes and conducts, what you have defined, just surrender completely unto me. Man mana bhav mad bhakto, think about me, become my devotee, worship me. So this is the most confidential instruction. So in a similar fashion, just like Krishna is hesitant, he cannot give the instructions immediately. But the crux of Bhagavad Gita is that, yes, a person should surrender. In a similar fashion, Prabhupada explained, among my disciples, I don't think there are many who can translate properly. The highest knowledge will not be revealed to them, so they are not qualified. So some of the disciples, they could not digest. They were very new. That our spiritual master is telling us not to touch, and some of them, they left the movement also. So Prabhupada told, principle is, yes, they can be translated, but otherwise simply by imitating ABCD, it will not help. My purports are liked by people because it is presented as practical experience. It cannot be done unless one is realized. So only a realized soul should be translating these books, should be even touching these books. So if a person directly reads Ras Leela, Prabhupada told, he may face a degradation, fall down in spiritual life. He may take it as an mundane or ordinary lusty affairs. So that is why these are mentioned in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. By the time a person reaches 10th canto, follows all the rules, regulations nicely, he will become God realized, Prabhupada mentions. So he told, yes, translation of the books can be done in future, but such person should be God realized. Otherwise, do not touch it. Simply by mundane scholarship, you cannot translate. And this unfortunate thing has happened in the country. Many people are now presenting their own Bhagavad Gita. They may not even have knowledge of Sanskrit. Still, they are misinterpreting. And even though some of them who are scholars, Just like a person who is a great scholar of English cannot explain physics, even though that is written in English language. You need to have knowledge of physics that is completely different from knowledge of English. In a similar fashion, just by knowing Sanskrit, you cannot sit down and translate. Only a person who sees Krishna face to face can translate Bhagavad Gita and other literatures. So Prabhupada told, yes, translation can be done of other literatures, but such a person should be on the platform of God realization. So these very important instructions were imparted to the GBCs. As June came in Vrindavan, the weather remained very hot. The sky, which had been clear blue, turned hazy as the first moisture arrived. Between noon and 4 p.m., the ground was too hot for bare feet, and the residents of Vrindavan would stay home, confining most of their activity to either the morning or late afternoon and evening. Evening eating was excluded from the midday hours, since the heat killed the appetite. The Yamuna was shallow and hot, giving little relief. The cows were gaunt from lack of grass and feed. An occasional hot, searing winds raised dust clouds. Flies and mosquitoes died in the air. One of the few pleasant features of summer was that the fragrance of bale flowers that climbed along the walls around Prabhupada's garden, somehow thriving in the dry heat. In the first days of June, Srila Prabhupada experienced some hope of recovery. He asked to resume his morning rides. And when being brought down to the car, he said, "Soon I will get down and walk myself." His old friend from Allahabad, Dr. Ghosh, came and diagnosed his disease as anxiety for the devotees of Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Prabhupada agreed, but he didn't follow the doctor's orders, since they included having his blood pressure checked regularly and taking various medicines and special treatments. But by receiving massages from his servants, he felt he was improving. At this rate, he said he would be all right after a month and a half. But he stressed, "I am not leaving Vrindavan until I am well." July was a good month for Srila Prabhupada's work on Srimad Bhagavatam. He continued dictating very early in the morning and in the afternoon, completing chapters 8 and 9 of the 10th canto. It was his great pleasure to do so. Working on Srimad Bhagavatam, he was completely transcendental to his physical condition. Despite the accompanying heart palpitations and despite his faint voice and general weakness, even to sit was difficult, and yet once he began working, nothing could stop him. So now Prabhupada was giving the most important instruction. We all will become old, health will fail, organs may start failing. In that stage also, how a person can remain transcendental? By being absorbed in Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada was concerned that when he wrote, what he wrote be published and distributed. It was a service to his Guru Maharaj, and he received great satisfaction in hearing that book distribution was still expanding all over the world. Harikesh Swami, the GBC of Northern and Eastern Europe, reported that he was printing a very large quantity of books in 13 languages. After hearing only the beginning of this report, Srila Prabhupada exclaimed, "All the blessings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj on you. You are the most important grandson of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Go on doing like this." So Prabhupada never spoke such statements. You are the most important grandson. Prabhupada's son and his disciples were grandsons. So book distributors were so dear to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada told, you are the most important grandson of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Please keep on doing this, increasing book distribution. Because this is my service. This is my life, order of my Guru Maharaj. You are helping me in this. In a similar mood, Srila Prabhupada pushed his GBC Secretary for India, Gopal Krishna, to produce Hindi books faster and in greater quantities. Whenever Gopal Krishna came to visit Srila Prabhupada without a new publication, Prabhupada would reprimand him for his slowness. Gopal Krishna therefore began a policy of visiting Prabhupada, because he would come without book. Prabhupada would always ask, "Where is book?" So then he started visiting only when he had a new publication. He therefore began a policy of visiting Prabhupada only when he had a new book to present. In mid-July, when Gopal Krishna brought a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto part 2 in Hindi, Srila Prabhupada accepted it happily and said, "Twice now, unless he brings some book, he won't come, because every time I criticize him, where is the book, where is the book?" So thus we can understand how Prabhupada's, even his final work was translating and distributing books. And Prabhupada would get pleased like anything when he heard of his book distribution. So this order stands true even now. So I request all of you that if you want to please Prabhupada, please try to distribute as many books as possible. Prabhupada wanted every respectable house should have a complete set of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita with them. And simply by such distribution of literatures, Krishna consciousness will increase automatically, because some souls are already qualified by virtue of past many lives. If they come in contact with such literature, their lives may change. And we get many such instances. Usually we have to preach so much to a person to advance in spiritual life. But sometimes we get a phone call, Prabhu, I want to take initiation. And they tell that how they met some devotee somewhere. They read the book, they could not understand. And then after some time, after a year or two, they again read the book. Then they understood, they started chanting. Some others understood immediately and they finished all Prabhupada books. They started chanting 16 rounds and everything. It happens with, and some of you would have experienced how it has happened with you. So this is very important service. So I request, please try to distribute books. This is the best welfare activity. Actually, human life is only meant for welfare. This science people do not know. Only when we live for welfare work, we can be happy. And the best welfare work is distributing this transcendental knowledge. So we do not know how to become happy. So happiness is very simple. Simply make God happy. If God becomes happy, can anybody make us sad? No. People are having many workshops how to become happy. People are devising various ways and means, various psychological techniques, affirmations, gratitude, exitude, quietude. No tudes or isms are going to make us happy. But simply if you make God happy, then we'll be happy. And how God can be happy? Your spiritual master is happy. Yasya prasadat bhagvat prasadu. So Prabhupada would be very happy when we help him in carrying out the order his Guru Maharaj gave him of distributing literatures. So please try to always, whenever there is opportunity, you want to give a gift to somebody, give Prabhupada books to them, especially big books Prabhupada told. Small books and magazines, Prabhupada had written small book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, Back to Godhead magazines were there, but small books get displaced. Big books, they stay for generations. So whenever there is chance of giving any present to anybody, have a stock, a carton of big books with you, Krishna book, and Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, like that, and present it to others. And in your house or workplace, always have a display of all Bhagavatam sets or Chaitanya Charitamrita. Any new visitor to your place or your office, workplace will get inspired and they will take it. In this way, automatically, without your preaching, it will happen. So I request if you can please do it. And our bookstore is ready. We'll be launching it mostly tomorrow, hopefully. So at least if all of you can offer, at least for yourself, if you do not have yet, complete set of Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that would be very, very nice. And try to distribute also to others. By this, Prabhupada would be pleased, Krishna would be pleased. And if God is pleased, then automatically everything is settled in our life. We would be happy. Toward the end of July, Prabhupada's health seemed to be worsening again. And again he mentioned that the end might come at any moment. Tamal Krishna had been acting as Srila Prabhupada's personal secretary for 6 continuous months. And he had become Prabhupada's eyes and ears and his spokesman, especially in dealing with ISKCON management. He had also become a personal confidant, assisting Srila Prabhupada in his transcendental moods. As a sincere servant, he now began suggesting a different remedy. Srila Prabhupada had recently been feeling and expressing intense devotion towards his disciples in their preaching. Taking this as a cue, Tamal Krishna suggested that if Prabhupada could travel to the West and be with his disciples there, he would find new life. But if I die, said Prabhupada, I want to do so in Vrindavan. Tamal Krishna replied that Srila Prabhupada should not think of dying. If he would go on a tour of the West, see the devotees there, take prasadam made from food grown on the ISKCON farms, then certainly he would respond to such devotion and regain his appetite and strength. Tamal Krishna gave encouragement. When you get there with so many devotees who are giving their lives for spreading Krishna consciousness and assisting you, it will be really enthusing. And you won't have to speak so much. It's your presence. You're seeing the devotees and they're seeing you. So in that sense, it won't be exhausting. It's a good climate now too, August in London. It's a very good time. Prabhupada turned to Upendra and said, his words are making me feel different. Just hearing I become enthusiastic. Srila Prabhupada said, Tamal Krishna, by going west I know you will recover. May Krishna fulfill your words, said Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada still had no appetite and had scarcely eaten during the past 6 weeks. Says scarcely eaten during past 6 weeks. We can just imagine how weak he must be. One day if we don't eat on Ekadashi, we get disturbed. Prabhupada has not eaten for 6 weeks and disciples could not understand how somebody can live like that. He was no longer regular in his times for sleeping, taking massage or sitting up and translating, which Prabhupada was always very particular. Now there was no regularity in his schedule. Feeling himself to be at a critical period, he had given permission for all the devotees all over ISKCON to recite a simple prayer. My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada. So again, for Prabhupada, he told life or death, it is not important. But for disciples, it is very good to pray because if they pray, they will make spiritual advancement. So thus, why this was another opportunity for spiritual advancement which Prabhupada was offering to his disciples. So when the disciples pray, it is by prayers that we advance. So because they were attached to Prabhupada, Prabhupada was having no problem at all, living or dying, but if the disciples pray, they will make spiritual advancement. So he told, yes, all the disciples can pray, Krishna, please, if you so desire, please save our spiritual master. Please cure Srila Prabhupada. He would regularly go before the deities each morning. Wearing his dark sunglasses and sitting erect in the rocking chair, he would hold his palms together in a gesture of prayer, while 2 men, one in front and one behind, carefully carried the rocker from Prabhupada's room into the temple room. They would set the chair down first before the deities of Gaurnitai, then before Krishna Balram, and then before Radha Shyam Sundar. Then they would carry him to the central spot in the courtyard under the tamal tree and set his chair down on the black and white checkered marble floor. Srila Prabhupada would sit facing Krishna and Balram, and the devotees would sit down around him and begin a kirtan. As the kirtan began, 2 Gurukul boys would rise and come in front of him, where they would begin dancing with arms upraised, their cotton chadar swinging back and forth. Prabhupada would usually not speak or even smile, but after a few minutes he would give his garlands to a devotee who would place them around the necks of the dancers. Soon 2 other young boys would come forward and the first boys would garland them with the garlands they had received from Srila Prabhupada and sit down. For half an hour, the dancing and singing continued. Guests to the temple would gather, many of them offering money at Prabhupada's feet, which rested on an embroidered silk cushion. Srila Prabhupada was gaining resolve to go to the West. If I can work a little more, he said, our society will be very strong. I want to see that what I have done is made still stronger. Prabhupada's talk of travel, however, coincided with increasing weakness. He talked less. When Tamal Krishna tried to encourage him to translate, he replied, when I get inspiration, I will take it up. Don't try to force me. I am going through a difficult time and I am now feeling restless. It is not mechanical. So even though Prabhupada was getting weaker every day, he was still telling, if I can work just a little more, my society would be even stronger. And in this stage, when Prabhupada cannot move, he has to be carried on a chair. He cannot even talk, he cannot even smile. He's so weak. But Prabhupada is willing to travel to another country, to London. Thousands of visitors, meanwhile, came to Krishna Balram Mandir, which was now one of the most popular temples in all of northern India. The evening Aarti at Krishna Balram was so crowded that resident devotees could not attend, but could only stand in the back of the courtyard at the edge of a packed, jostling crowd. Some of the Gurukul boys would greet the guests with Hindi back-to-guarded magazines, each boy selling 200 or 300 magazines at night. Srila Prabhupada was glad to hear this. A report came from Abhiram in Calcutta that Srila Prabhupada's passport had finally been secured and the American consulate in Calcutta would help in getting the green card for the US. Tamal Krishna ran upstairs and told Srila Prabhupada, "There is very good news." Srila Prabhupada was lying down in bed, but when he heard the news, he began to slowly clap his hands, saying, "Give me good news and keep me alive." He began to think ahead to London. "The Radha Krishna deities there are so nice," he said. "Radha Londonishwara, an innocent boy he is." Srila Prabhupada thought of the Bhaktivedanta manor. "That lawn before my room is magnificent," he said. "I think good time is coming." So Srila Prabhupada's enthusiasm for preaching was endless. He is hardly able to move, but he claps when he gets the news that his passport is ready, visa has got approved, and he can travel. And Prabhupada immediately starts meditating upon his next preaching mission, again going to London. And he's meditating upon Radha Londonishwara, the deities of the Bhaktivedanta Manor, London Temple, and his lawns and his rooms and all the devotees over there. So it is not possible to have such a transcendental mood. Srila Prabhupada is personally empowered incarnation of the potency of Krishna, of the mercy of Krishna, and only such an advanced devotee can exhibit such extraordinary pastimes. Nevertheless, we can do our bit, we can do our small fraction of whatever spirit we can muster by associating it through the messages of Srila Prabhupada and try to carry forward this message. Lord Krishna came here to deliver this important message to save the souls, and all the acharyas simply try to pass on that message in the generations to come. So if we can simply try to read this message carefully, attentively, make our life successful, and distribute such messages, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and all the acharyas will bless us sufficiently. With this, we would like to end. Now I request, as we do every time, please try to write your realizations in the comments so that others can get benefit, you can get benefit, you will contemplate upon these points. And it is contemplation after reading and hearing which is very, very important, which keeps us on spiritual platform. And the video will have a better reach. Also, if you can like and share, it will have still better reach. Please try to do that. We'll meet tomorrow again with the concluding session of Srila Prabhupada Lila. Thank you for hearing. We'll meet tomorrow. Hare Krishna.